Welcome to the Church of Thomas. Passover, 3/16/08. Most of you know what Passover celebrates. Think of it as a Jewish Independence Day, like we in the USA celebrate the 4th of July. It was celebrated the first time huddled in their homes, safe from the angel of death. They sheltered in homes marked for protection from the angel of death by the sign of a sacrificed lamb or goat's blood around their door. This marked them as belonging to the God of Abraham. They had been slaves under Pharaoh, throwaway workers. God has told them that through Moses, that this will be the night that they are freed from that bondage. They have packed everything portable. They are prepared to flee quickly when Pharaoh insists that they all leave Egypt. They are having a very simple meal for dinner this night. The lamb and goatling that are killed has to be eaten completely before dawn, or it has to be burned. With this roast meat, they ate bitter herbs and unleavened bread. The name of the holiday comes from the act of the angel of death passing over the homes marked by the blood on their doors. It was a fearful night. Only the Israelites that stayed put and obeyed the instructions were saved. The meat and unleavened bread symbolized the ability to move quickly when it was time to leave Egypt. The bitter herbs were filled with minerals and vitamins, and they didn't have to be cooked. Later they were associated with the bitter slavery that they had known under Pharaoh. This was the festival that greeted the arrival of Jesus in Jerusalem the last time. The meal we now use to celebrate Jesus' sacrifice is taken directly from this Passover feast. When Jesus prepared to enter Jerusalem, there was a great gathering of people ready to welcome him. They cheered and honored him. He told his people to find the little donkey that would carry him through the gates. He told them how they would find the upper room they would be staying in. He told them to find the makings of their Passover celebration meal. As he rode into town, he was hailed with great applause and the waving of palm fronds. He arrived like a conquering hero, except he rode in on a humble little donkey. The crowds thought he was coming to free them all from Roman occupation. Many thought he was a vanguard of a mighty army. Few of them understood his true mission was of peace and love. I want you to close your eyes and imagine the thrill of being welcomed with such adoration and love. The cheers echoing off the rocks everywhere. He was being treated like a prodigal son returned after they thought he was lost. He had to have been basking in this glow of goodwill. They were all treating him like a best friend and a family member. His people must have felt nearly invincible. How could they fail with this kind of groundswell of support? Any resistance from Romans would have been useless. Now I want you to hear the cries of derision and hate that these very same people would yell a couple of days later. These same people would shout anger and blame at Jesus when he was held prisoner by Pilate. The time to release a prisoner for Passover, as was the tradition of pardon for Jewish prisoners, came. When Pilate did not want to kill Jesus, he tried to offer Jesus as this pardoned prisoner. This crowd that loved Jesus yelled that he should be crucified. The prisoner they yelled for was of like mind to them, a freedom fighter, zealot, called Barabbas. He would be called a terrorist today. Some say that it was just the crowd being whipped up by the Jewish priests. I'm sure that was part of it. But how could they be so fickle about the hero they honored just a couple of days before? The reason is obvious. Jesus did not bring an army. He did not try to incite violence that they thought would solve their Roman problem. He talked only about love. He had the audacity to let them down. He did not live up to what they expected from him. It did not matter he never advocated violence. It did not matter that he said he would not rule them but the whole world. He had placed them in a cubbyhole. They had placed him in a cubbyhole that he just didn't fit in. They instead of trying to find merit in what he really preached, they hated him for not being what they wanted. His heart must have been breaking to hear the jeers, taunts, and insults hurled at him. The bitterness of going from the adoration to vehemently hated must have hurt him deeply. He was secretly arrested and shuttled around to different dignitaries by the Sanhedrin priests. They did not have the authority to kill him legally. They wanted to end this troublemaker's appeal. His very mission was to rock the boat. The status quo would not stand when he was completed. They were very comfortable with their status, even if it meant knuckling under to the Roman occupiers. They still had power over the Israelites. Jesus did not defend himself because he knew the decision was already made to kill him. They were just trying to find a politician to do it. Jesus suffered constantly from the beatings each set of guards put him through. There was an understanding on the part of the temple guards that if Jesus met with an unexpected death, they would be rewarded handsomely. They did their level best to collect that reward. They did not know that he was being healed as they damaged him. He had to die on the cross to fulfill his promise to God to be the last sacrifice ever needed to free us from sin. The Holy Spirit followed him during this ordeal to keep him alive. I can only imagine the pain and resolve it took for his twin to keep him alive and suffering. Thank God it will never be repeated. All other sacrifices to God have been made obsolete by this sacrifice. No other sacrifice will ever be accepted from the time Jesus was murdered on the cross to the present day. When you feel like the world has crushed you, remember, Jesus was there with you. When you have felt the sting of harsh and unfair words hurled at you, remember Jesus knows how you feel. When you ache for the end of your suffering, remember, Jesus knows those feelings as well. The firstborn of God was given to save us and show us the way. Jesus did not get his arm twisted to come here to show us the way. He was not ordered to die for us. Jesus did all of these things of his own free will because of his love for us. Jesus paid a heavy price to help us. It is our role to make that sacrifice mean something. Do not let this huge gift be given in vain. God bless the whole world, no exceptions. Angel Eliza.